So we got this article that dropped the other day. It's yet another example of a key climate threshold being blown by. So this is in Axios. Earth likely briefly passed critical warming threshold on Friday and Saturday. The planet likely briefly exceeded a key warming threshold on Friday and Saturday for the first time since at least the beginning of instrument records, new data shows. The indication that Friday and Saturday were the indication that Friday and Saturday were the first 2 days on record to have a global average temperature surface above 2 degrees Celsius when compared to pre-industrial levels emerged from a data set maintained by the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts. Quote, our best estimate is that this was the first day when global temperature was more than 2 degrees Celsius above 1850 to 1900 or pre-industrial levels at 2.06 degrees Celsius. That's crazy. So now, I understand, guys, that this sounds like, it's really not that much, 2 degrees, no big deal. But that makes a world of difference in terms of how our climate systems function. I mean, it is, you want increased famine, increased drought, increased extreme weather events. Like, that's what comes along with a rise like that. She also noted the Saturday record in a post on Monday, stating, now 2 November 2023 days where global temperatures exceeded 2 degrees Celsius in Era 5. When compared with the 1991 to 2020 average, Friday's global mean was a record-setting 1.17 degrees Celsius, or 2.1 degrees Fahrenheit, above average. In a post on X on Monday, the ECMWF found that Friday was a bit warmer at 2.07 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, while Saturday reached an anomaly of 2.06 degrees. Here's why it matters. A daily global average surface temperature climb to greater than 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels indicates just how quickly the planet is warming, including some of the extremes that are now possible. So with the reading that I've been doing on this lately, that does appear to be the thing that scientists are most freaked out about. Is not even that the warming is happening, but is that the pace at which it is happening is totally unprecedented. They say breaching the 2-degree threshold for 2 days does not mean that the Paris Agreement's target of holding global warming to well below such a mark has been exceeded. The agreement refers to the long-term average over 2 or more decades rather than 1 day, month, or even year. Yeah, but I think that indicates you're probably going to see a hell of a lot more of that. The data set shows the record, known as ERA5, comes from a process known as reanalysis, in which a computer model uses surface temperature. So they're just describing how they get the temperature. So you can see here's a chart that sort of shows it. And that's not good. That's not good. News of the record is in keeping with the record-shattering year so far. This year is on track to be the hottest on record globally in all surface weather data sets, and saw both the hottest month on record, September, but also the largest margin for any monthly record in history. Each month since May has set monthly global temperature records, and heat waves have scorched large parts of the globe, from the southern U.S. to Africa, South America, China, and Japan. Last summer, the global average temperature surface temperature first rose into record territory and eclipsed the 1.5 degree Paris target. That caught some scientists off guard, and the failure of the planet to cool back down below all-time record territory has stood out. So in other words, in a sense, we're already surpassing a lot of the target temperatures for the Paris Climate Agreement, and scientists are shocked by it, and they're also shocked that when it eclipses these records, it's not cooling down anywhere near fast enough. That's good. This is all great. November 2 is now likely to be the hottest such month on record. The 1.5 and 2 degree targets were set by political leaders, but scientific research bolsters the case that if warming were to exceed even the more stringent target, the likelihood of devastating and potentially irreversible climate calamities would increase dramatically. A report released last week shows the ways that climate change is already wreaking havoc on the U.S. For example, while human-caused climate change is viewed as the larger driver of the long-term increase in temperatures and record warmth this year, a strong El Niño event in the tropical Pacific Ocean is helping to pump added heat into the climate system. So yeah, that's something that I've heard as well, that El Niño is sort of exacerbating this year the issues with climate change. So look, that story reminded me of, I remember back in, I think that this was May 2016. Atmospheric carbon dioxide soars past crucial milestone. The long-anticipated measurement of 400 parts per million confirms relentless increase of key greenhouse gases. I remember back when everybody used to talk about this. Oh, we have to stay under 400 parts per million. We have to do it, or else we're going to be in real serious trouble. And then in 2016, we surpassed 400 parts per million. And everybody just sort of shrugged, and we were like, well, all right, what are you going to do? It's like, no, this is really bad. That scientists gave us these key warnings and these thresholds we couldn't surpass, and we surpassed them. And again, just to put this into perspective for you some more, the last 9 years are the warmest on record. So this is from 1880 until 2020, or 2022, I should say. And look at this chart. Look at this chart. That should shake you out of your complacency. Now, again, you might look at that and say, well, what's the big deal? Okay, so things are warmer. It's not about the fact that it's warmer. It's not even necessarily about the fact that the sea levels are rising, which, of course, is going to cause huge problems for places like New Orleans that are at sea level or below sea level or even above, a little above sea level. Miami, for example. So it's bad on that front. But again, the most important thing is you're going to deal with drought. You're going to deal with famine. You're going to deal with wars over water. You're going to deal with increased extreme weather events on both sides of the spectrum. So it's not the trend over the long run is that the climate is warming. That's a fact. But also it leads to more extreme weather in both directions, which is why now they call it climate change. And they don't necessarily call it global warming, even though the trend is the globe is warming. So you have all these huge problems. Some places are going to be uninhabitable. The Middle East will be uninhabitable in the relatively near future. And we're not taking this anywhere near seriously enough. We have to absolutely get off of fossil fuels as quick as possible. I'm not saying you destroy the economy in order to do that. I'm saying you do an intelligent, just transition where you create a whole bunch of new jobs and you create the energy sources of the future. And by the way, that is an economic opportunity because you can get patents for the inevitable technologies that are going to be used in the future that replace, oil, natural gas, etc. So again, man, every time I read one of these articles, it's like, oh, this is actually worse than the worst case scenario. And it's barely a blip, right? Like, we're talking about it, but I didn't see many articles about it. I definitely didn't see anything on cable news about it. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.